Keep yourself in the loop of everything football. Listen to Alex and Jeremiah on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello there, I'm Jeremiah.
I am Alex, always and forever here.
Dedicated to college and NFL football. The latest football news on and off the field. NFL draft trade rumors. We've got you covered from the NFL, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything else in between. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we talk the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. From the latest signings to this year's breakout stars and all of the news in between, as always, I'm Alex.
And I'm Jeremiah.
And hello, Jeremiah.
It's election day.
It's election day today, people. November 8th. It's a Tuesday. Jeremiah and I are currently sitting here. It's 8 in the morning, and we are here to deliver football news. But yes, it's election day. Get out there and vote. Whoever you're voting for, go out there and vote.
Yeah, you know what?
Make a difference.
I don't care who you vote for, guys. I just want people out there to exercise their right to go vote out there, because that's the right. I feel like people underutilize a lot.
I saw somebody make a good point. It says, doesn't matter who you're voting for, left, right, up, down, vote for America.
Exactly. And not only that, but on a serious note, I really feel like this election really is going to make a difference for years to come, and that's why I think it's so important to vote.
Yeah, get out there and vote, guys. You'll be hearing this not long after we record it, so it'll still be in the morning. You'll have plenty of time to get out there and do your civil duty. But until then, Until then, we're going to talk about some people that get paid a lot of money to play sports. We're going to talk football.
Because why? Because we're in America.
Because why? Because today we're going to talk the Monday Night Football game that's probably going to go down as one of the more interesting games of the year. Probably one of the more...
Definitely. I think it's definitely one of the most discussed.
Yeah, it's one of the most discussed.
Probably this year.
Controversial
Games of this year. And before this certain play happened, this was actually a pretty good game, actually, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. I thought this was probably, I thought this was probably the most exciting Monday night game we've had all year.
Probably in a while.
Yeah, and I thought it was competitive, but we're going to talk about why it was controversial for different reasons. So the Seattle Seahawks come out on top on this one, 31-25 over the Buffalo Bills. The Seahawks moved to 4-2-1. They're still undefeated at home. Buffalo goes to 4-5, and they are 2-3 on the road. Tyrod Taylor, not a bad day, 289, 1-1. He added a rushing touchdown and 43 yards on the ground, as well as a 2-point conversion on his feet. Leading receiver there for them, Robert Woods, formerly of USC, 10 receptions, 162 yards, and a very beautiful catch late in the game on the sideline.
I think it was 3rd and 21 too. That was a beautiful catch right there.
Russell Wilson had a very good day from the pocket, because he's still kind of working with his injury, and I have a nice little thing to say about that actually too, and it's in a minute after I get the stat lines out. But he was the epitome of efficiency, 20 for 26, 282 and 2. Both of those touchdown passes going to Jimmy Graham, just a handful of one-handed catches. Literally 2 one-handed catches makes 1 two-handed catch. But he's 103 yards receiving on 8 receptions. All 8 of his targets were brought in for both of those touchdowns. Doug Baldwin, not a bad day, 89 yards on 6 receptions. I was going to say, I was watching the Monday Night Countdown, and Steve Young made a really good point where he said he had a year with a groin injury, an issue with his groin. And Steve Young is, in my opinion, one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks ever. He's the best left-handed quarterback, in my opinion, ever. My brother and I were actually debating on the list of best left-handed quarterbacks the other day, and I always have Steve Young at the top of mine. Steve Young, Vic, Kenny Stabler, Boomer Esiason, and all those guys, but definitely always Steve Young at the top. And he said the year his groin was hurt, he was already kind of in the transition of starting to try to play from the pocket more. I mean, you saw his last year, he was still a very mobile guy, even though he's getting up there in age. But he says he kind of looks back at that year his groin was hurt as a kind of a blessing in disguise, because it really taught him to play from the pocket more, as opposed to when things break down, always run. So he's saying this could be a good thing for Russell. And we saw it last night. Again, 20 for 26, 282 and 2. He took 4 sacks, but he was protected well enough throughout the game. And so that's something big. I mean, he did rush for a touchdown, but it was on 3 for 10 carry, carries for 10 total yards as a team, including him and receiver Tyler Lockett. They added 2 running backs, total of 8 carries. The team had a total carry amount of 12 for 33. That is not very good, averaging about 2.8 yards a carry, as opposed to the Bills, who were led by LaShawn McCoy, back from injury, 21 carries, 85 yards. Tyrod Taylor, as I mentioned, 43. Mike Gillislee had a touchdown as well on 32 yards and 8 carries. 162 as a team. That's a lot more what you want to see. So this game was very up and down. I will ask for your what you think of this before we get to halftime here. So,
okay,
what was your opinion on this game? We had some good stats, some good stat lines. Not a great defensive game for 2 teams that are not bad defenses overall this year.
I think that was the most surprising thing about this game, is that this became a 1-score game, but a total of almost to 60 points. And this is a pretty good offensive performance from Tyrod Taylor. I was very impressed last night.
He's on my fantasy team. It wasn't amazing numbers, but I don't pick him for that. I pick him for the dual threat thing.
But in reality, he was impressive last night. LaShawn McCoy, he looked good coming off of injury.
Yeah,
Robert
he did.
Woods having practically the best game of his career. And Jamie Graham, man, what a player.
He finally had that big game with the Seahawks.
He finally had that big game with the Seahawks. That's the reason why they traded him.
They traded for him,
last year.
Mm-hmm.
And this overall, when you look at the stat lines here, total yards, first downs, Buffalo dominated this game.
Yeah, they really did.
They did, and then they had a chance to win it late at the end of the game. But
they needed a touchdown instead of a
field
goal.
They needed a touchdown. And
well, let's talk about that.
They did have a chance to get a field goal before halftime, and
yes.
That's what's
controversial.
That is the main topic of this overall game.
Yeah, so let me lay it out here for you. Let me get to the point in which the field goal was attempted here. Okay, so they had a 54-yard field goal attempt by Dan Carpenter, formerly of the Miami Dolphins, stayed in the division, went to the Bills. He's not a bad kicker, Excuse me. 54-yard field goal attempt would have made the game. It would have made it 20-28, manageable, right? It would have made the score, if everything went the same way, 28-31, and instead of needing a touchdown to tie or to actually go ahead at the end of the game, they needed a field goal to tie the game. Changed a lot of things. They're obviously in field goal range, throwing their last play from about the 15. So, definitely would have changed a lot of things. The reason you say that is because there's about 5 seconds left in halftime. So I want to say about 5 or 6, actually, because they snapped the ball. Actually, I should start differently. They didn't snap the ball. Before they snapped the ball, Richard Sherman ran off sides. But instead of getting back or, stopping or something, he continued his route to the holder and the kicker, and the ball was snapped just like most of the time with offsides. They try to get a play or something. And the kicker is kind of focused. He has his head down. He's doing his thing. And what's weird to me is the holder was still holding the ball, yet Sherman did not go for that. He launched himself at the lower half of Dan Carpenter's body, thus hitting him in his knees, the one place kickers probably don't want to get hit, that in their back, I would say. And he fell to the ground. He was clearly hurt, at least hurt in the moment. And they called offsides, but no, unnecessary roughness, which would have been 15 yards and an easier field goal. Excuse me. And then they had to, Carpenter had to come off the field, and then they had to spike the ball. I didn't see why they had to do it for that reason.
I think there's the reason why they had to do that is because, Dan Carpenter had to leave the game at that point.
So they just spiked it.
So he couldn't go on for the next play.
That's what I thought,
they had to spike it real quick, and they did.
Okay, so they spiked the ball.
And then Dan Carpenter had to go back into the game.
And so you have the play clock running, obviously, and with about 5 seconds left, the official is still standing over the ball. So he finally moves, runs to his spot. I imagine he had to sprint because you have 5 seconds left, and there's a delay of game that they called on them, yet the official was standing over the ball for quite a while there. So I didn't understand that. Then they finally go on to kick what again was a 54-yard, because 5 yards for the offensive, the offsides, and then 5 yards back for that delay of game, which was once again a 54-yard field goal. He missed it. reasonably so. He kicked a knuckleball. Who knows if his leg was great? Whatever. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. It's going to be talked about all year. Rex Ryan says ridiculous from an officiating standpoint. I think they can do better than that because obviously nothing was called in favor of the Bills on that final 10-second kind of deal. And I think above all, Richard Sherman says, I'm a professional athlete. I play to the end of the whistle. You see guys, they play to the end. I'm going to block a kick. That's what I'm trying to do. When you block kicks, and I see kicks try to get blocked, you see guys, unless they jump over the center, like Wagner would do, you see guys completely stretched out like a bald eagle. Sherman's a long guy. He's going to stretch his body out, try to block with your hands, but he didn't use his hands. He dove with his shoulder, which would be the dumbest way to block a kick I've ever seen, at the legs of Dan Carpenter. So you got it all laid out.
Yeah.
There you go.
That was probably the wackiest 10 seconds I've ever seen in a football game in my entire life.
Yeah.
And isn't it kind of funny that all these controversial calls always happen at Central League Field?
You know how you have the phrase, the Browns keep Browning,
yeah.
and I have the phrase, the Seahawks keep Seahawking. And it's not like the Browns keep Browning and they can't find ways to win. The Seahawks find ways to like steal wins or be given wins.
Exactly. It's always I just think it's funny that all these controversial calls that the NFL has had in recent years have happened at Central League Field, even including the Fail Mary. And you know how that went.
Yeah.
And we had that controversial pass interference call earlier this year when the Seahawks played the Falcons. Mm-hmm. Something that should have been called.
Yeah.
And now you have...
Don't even mention the things that Sherman did in this game other than that.
Exactly. And on top of that, you got this game last night, a call that should have been roughing the kicker. That way the Bills would have got a first down, maybe take one shot at the end zone.
Depends on how much time there was, really. I don't know.
I think they had enough time to take one shot. But
they were pretty far away, so half of that would have taken them running down the field.
That should have been roughing the kicker. All right, and I understand that Richard Sherman was offsides. You got to call 2 penalties on there.
You got to call offsides. You got to call roughing
you have
the kicker.
To. How?
Or unsportsmanlike conduct.
Exactly. You cannot. That was the worst officiating I've ever seen in a while in a football game. And it always happens at Central League Field. Is it a conspiracy theory? Is it? Is it a conspiracy theory that all these happen all the time in Central League Field? Why is it? I'm not going to go
I feel like all those refs feel afraid because everybody's so loud there.
I'm not going to go that far, but maybe the noise factor plays a fact into that. Maybe that is true. And don't get me wrong, being a ref in a professional league, NBA, NFL,
it's got a lot of
it's tough.
It's got a lot of I mean, you're never right because if you go and say they called that offsides and unnecessary roughness or whatever, there's still Seattle fans that would be upset about it and yell at them and yell obscenities at them. But at the same time,
that's the right call.
Yeah, that's the right call. But what I'm saying is, no matter what, refs are never right.
They're never going to be right.
And that's the hardest thing about it. Unfortunately, they were the epitome of wrong last night on some of these calls and no calls, and that's how the cookie crumbles. But that is the unfortunate side of being a ref in many major sports, Make the right call at the home stadium and everybody loves it. But if it was at the other team stadium, everybody hate it, So you hear it either way. And it's just unfortunate side.
Dan Carpenter could have got really hurt in that play.
Yes, he could have because, again, he went right at his legs. If you haven't seen it, anybody out there, I implore you to watch the video of the block.
He was on the ground for a while.
Yeah, and it's not that he wasn't. What I mean is, Sherman did not look like he was trying to block any kind of kick. I would never try to block a kick like that. He made his body smaller, and he's 6 foot 3, 4.
He's 6'3".
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
That's not how you block kicks. So I don't care what he says. I don't believe him when he says he was trying to block that kick. I believe him that he was trying to go into the kicker's legs, because what else is better than instead of an attempt to make it a one-score game before halftime, you hurt the kicker. I'm not saying he's trying to hurt anybody. I'm not trying to put that on anybody. But I'm saying he can't end up kicking the field goal. Or whatever it is, or the clock runs. I don't know. All I know is I don't believe a word he said yesterday about trying to block the kick, because I've seen people try to block kicks, and that is not what it looks like. You don't make yourself smaller. You make yourself wider, longer. No,
man.
Sir.
All right, man. You okay?
No, I'm not. We're gonna take our first break, so
you need some water
so I can steam down.
Get some cool down. But anyways, yeah, I didn't really like the call, and I have to say the refs got it wrong last night.
Yep,
and
I'm with you on that, JJ.
That really impacted this game for the Bills, who were trying to go over 500.
Yeah, that really throws them back. Now they're in third place. They're 4-5 behind the 4-4 Dolphins, and it's unfortunate. And I'm not a fan, and I am upset.
Me too.
Let's take our first break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna talk today's college football playoff rankings, week 2. They're gonna look a little different than week 1. We don't know what they're gonna look like yet. We have about 7 hours until then, but 8 hours. I almost had it off the top of my head. 8 hours until then.
Man, on election day, man, it's a busy night.
Yeah, I know, right? So we're going to have that unveiled later today, but Jeremiah and I are going to talk a little bit about how we see it shaping out. So we are going to take our first break and come right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we are back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. It's time to talk college football and the college football playoff rankings week 2, which will be unveiled later today. But in doing that, we will recap what week 1 was. We had Alabama in the number 1 spot, and they did win this week, defeating number 13 LSU in what was a boring but still good but still exciting game in that conference. All at the same time, 10-0. Clemson, number 2, they played Syracuse this week, and it was a close game, 54-0 in favor of Clemson.
That was a close game for Syracuse.
Yes. Michigan was in the number 3 spot, and they defeated Maryland at just as big of a mark, 59-3. And Texas A&M held the last spot at the moment. They did at the number 4 spot, but they lost to Mississippi State 35-28 this week after losing quarterback Trevor Knight. Early in the game, they were still in it, though, so I do not blame that for the reason as to why they lost. It might have helped contribute, but they still were in that game. So I don't think, they lost like 35-0 because he got hurt, blah, 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 Washington had the 5th spot. They defeated Cal pretty big this week, 66-27, and Ohio State had the 6th spot for those first 2 out, defeating Nebraska in probably the biggest win of the top 6 teams all week in the sense of scores, excluding Washington, and that's 63-3. Louisville, obviously, just outside that. They'll probably move into the top 6, having beaten Boston College 52-7. Now, Texas A&M, you're gone. You're out of there.
They're gone. They're not coming back.
Now, my question to you is, who moves into the 4th spot? Is it Washington or is it Ohio State?
I think it should be Ohio State. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't be surprised.
Many people would say they think it should be Washington.
I think it should be Ohio State. I wouldn't be surprised if Washington moves up in a way.
Same.
But I think it should be Ohio State. I really do think Ohio State is the better overall team than Washington. Ohio State has had a tougher schedule. Even that one loss to Penn State, that's a really good loss now. You see how Penn State has played ever since that game.
Yeah, Penn State was ranked 12th in last week's poll.
Exactly. And Louisville, they look like they're not going to go anywhere. They're definitely going to move in the top 6.
Yeah, because Texas A&M's fallen probably to 10 or something.
Yeah, and in Washington, they're going to be in the top 6. I just don't.
They will be.
I'm just not sold on them as being a top 4 team. Don't get me wrong; they are a great team.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, all year long, if they go into the playoffs, they're going to get torched by Alabama. There's no way around it. No way around
something that I told you I came to a realization last night, right? I was listening to somebody talking about, I like to listen to sports radio. I was listening to somebody talk about the same kind of thing. Washington, their strength of schedule going into the year is like 69 or something in terms of strength of schedule, which means it's not very tough. Michigan, heading into this year, had a strength schedule of 62, or maybe the other way around. It wasn't much stronger. They haven't really played many big teams up until their next game in a few weeks. They'll be playing Ohio State, but Michigan State was their strongest game. So at the same time, Michigan doesn't have that strong of a schedule either, but it's the bias against the Pac-12. People say the Pac-12 isn't as strong this year. But in all reality, the Pac-12 is just as strong this year. It's just the different teams being strong. As it stands right now in the college football playoff, they have Colorado, they have Washington, obviously, they have Washington State, and then if you look at Utah at 16, that's 4 teams ranked in the top 25. That's as many as there were last year. It's just different teams this year. It was Oregon and not Utah, actually. It was Oregon and Stanford, and it was different teams doing it. This year, it's still 4 teams. It's still strong. It's just different teams, And yes, the conference isn't as good as if those teams were good and the teams last year were still good. But people don't give it credit for being strong with 4 teams in the top 25, let alone in the playoff rankings. So I think this week, I want to say Washington moves into 4 because you can't ignore, yes, they haven't played great teams, but they're still doing what they need to do to be in that spot. Now, Ohio State, yes, they've beaten stronger competition, and I'm not going to sit here and cry a foul if they move into the 4 spot. They just beat the number 10 ranked team. They've beaten stronger teams. Yes, they lost to Penn State, but Penn State is probably moving up into the top 10, if not just on the outside at 11 in this week's poll. That's a stronger loss for them now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it go Bama, Clemson, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, or Washington, Ohio State. I could definitely see it going both ways. I want to say Washington, though. I really do. I think they deserve to be in that spot purely based off of people putting too much thought into this weak year that the Pac-12 is having, and such a great year that Michigan's having, but they're really, who has Michigan played? Other than Michigan State so far, and they will finish the year against Ohio State, which is a big deal, but, as it stands, who?
And that is a good point that you brought up for Michigan, and that is why I don't see Michigan going to the playoffs as well.
Because you think Ohio State's going to be.
Because I think Ohio State's going to be in there. And there's no way that Michigan and Ohio State can be in the playoffs at the same time because they have to obviously play each other at the end of the year. I do think Ohio State is the better team.
Yes, you did.
And Ben said Michigan was the better team.
Yes, he did.
He did say that, and I understand his reasoning. But overall, I do think Ohio State is going to be the team to enter the playoff race. If it's not this week, it's going to be at the end of the year. Because I looked at Ohio State's schedule. I don't see really a loss coming in anytime soon. And I know that Penn State loss came out of nowhere. But Penn State were pretty good before that game, And Washington deserves all the credit that they're getting right now. And they're a good team. I think they're a great team. I just don't think they can compete with the other teams ahead of them.
Understandable.
Even against maybe Louisville they can compete against because Washington can score points.
And they definitely have good defense.
That'll be a good, fun game to watch, wouldn't it? That'll be a fun game. 2 Heisman candidates going head-to-head against each other.
Yeah, if Lamar Jackson wasn't playing the way he was, I would think Browning would win.
Yeah.
I'll say real quick, too, so obviously Michigan's undefeated. They're 6-0 in the conference, 9-0 overall. Penn State and Ohio State are both 5-1. Ohio State has the edge, obviously, at 8-1. After that, it drops to 3-3, 2-4, and 2-0-6 teams. And you look at the West, and the best team in that division, 2-7 teams, 0-6 in the conference, obviously. So 5-4 and 5-4, and then 2-7s. You look at the West, and you have 3 7-2 teams. It's Minnesota, Nebraska, and Wisconsin. You look at Michigan's overall schedule this year. They played Hawaii, UCF, Colorado before they were as good as they are now. They were moving up. Penn State, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Illinois, their best game to date, which was Michigan State, and then they played Maryland. What's impressive about that? What is so impressive about that?
I think the only impressive thing is that they can score a lot on these teams.
Yeah, which is true, but if you look at, the conference is down this year, Washington, boo you. The Big Ten's down this year too. It's them and Ohio State, and yeah, you have two teams in the top 5, respectively, that's what will be this week. But come on, man!
Come on,
this Pac-12 bias.
I understand your reasoning, and then Pac-12 they're definitely underrated by the people that make these polls. I think the Pac-12 is a great conference.
Mm-hmm.
You know that I love the Pac-12.
I do.
You do know that.
You like the Mountain West a little bit too.
Okay. Well, yeah, I know. Yeah,
Okay.
But we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
I think the Pac-12 is a great conference, and it may not be as strong as it used to be, but you brought up a good point. Big 12 or the Big 10?
Big 10, yeah.
Big 10.
Big 12's weak.
Big 12 is really weak.
Yeah, they're weak this year.
Yeah. They have no playoff contenders in there. Big 10 is just as weak. But I think it's because, we have Ohio State competing year in, year out. And, Michigan, with Jim Harbaugh there. I do think that's the reason why.
I understand it.
I think that's the reason why, they're covered so heavily.
Who would have guessed the ACC would be the stronger conference out of those this year?
Exactly. And the ACC conference is probably the second best conference in college football.
Besides SEC, yeah, because you have Clemson, you have Louisville, you have North Carolina and Virginia Tech all sitting at the tops of their divisions there, at least in the top twos.
And you got 2 quarterbacks in the ACC that can be really high draft picks next year. And I'm talking about Deshaun Watson and Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky's moving up in the draft boards. I can even put Deshaun Kaiser in the ACC by default. So he can be a high draft pick if he decides to declare. So the ACC has a really lot of good quarterbacks, and that's saying a lot. SEC is more historically a defensive conference.
Oh yeah.
So he would have thought that maybe ACC would have been better than the Big 10. Pac-12, they are a weaker conference.
I mean, if you look at it, everybody's conference-wise is kind of having an off year.
Yeah.
SEC, I mean, nobody in the East is contending really anywhere.
Yeah, we thought it was going to be Tennessee, and they've fallen off.
And Florida lost this week. As obviously Alabama at the top of the West. No one ever is at the top other than Bama. Auburn's right there behind them at 7-2, and then A&M at 7-2, and then LSU obviously had a bad year, off year. Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss had a rough year. Chad Kelly now out for the rest of the year. Not like it mattered in terms of their win-loss circuit. 4-5, they weren't going anywhere. They aren't even bowl eligible yet. But yeah, I'm not trying to say that the strength of Bama is weak or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. I just mean, you have to consider that. The SEC is not amazing other than Bama. The ACC is good, probably. I would say probably the most solid division.
I think they have
not the best, but the most solid.
I think they have a conference with the best quarterbacks.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think Pac-12 and the Big Ten. I mean, they're struggling, but they have good things about them. So I don't like this
a lot of teams
bias.
in those conferences can score, and that's
That's what we saw. In what conference? In the Big Ten, we saw 59 points. We saw 62 points. Excuse me. We saw the Pac-12. We saw 66 points from Washington. We saw Washington State put up 69 points. 69 points. The conferences can score, and they put up some numbers. So that's definitely not quite the case. That's not the thing. We saw actually the best team in college football put up 10 points. From the best conference. So that's again, they're known for defense. But it's gonna be an interesting list this week, I think.
Okay, so you're gonna go
Bama, Clemson, Michigan, Washington, Ohio State, Louisville.
Okay, I'm going Alabama.
Yeah.
Clemson. Michigan.
Oh man. Okay.
Ohio State. Washington and Louisville.
Okay. So you and I just flip flop 4 and 5. Okay.
I have to put Ohio State.
I'm not going to be surprised if that's what happens.
I think this is the week that Ohio State will enter the top 4. Michigan and Ohio State are not going to be in the top 4 the whole entire year until these teams play, but. That's what I think, and I wouldn't be surprised if Louisville jumps into the top 4 by the end of the season.
If they can keep it up, and if somebody loses, somebody's got to lose.
Someone's got to lose, and I don't see Ohio State losing anytime soon. Washington could perhaps lose.
You've talked about it, with USC coming up.
lose with SC, I think it's a strong possibility they get upset this Saturday.
And then they have Washington
And then
State
they
the
got
following
Washington-
week.
exact-
An Apple Cup, which
Exactly.
it's
And
always a tough game no matter how good
and
one
Washington
team is and the other
State
may be bad.
Can score.
Yes, they can. 69
And I
points.
know you're looking forward to that game.
I can't wait, man. I can't not freaking wait.
And I think that those are two games they can possibly lose. So if Alabama's obviously going to stay on top, Clemson's going to stay on top. Michigan, I think, is going to lose to Ohio State. So I think by the end of the year, I can see Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Louisville. I think it could happen.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how it lasts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, of course, tomorrow we'll be back to talk and recap and react to how this list turns out. But until then, we're going to take our last break, come back, and just do a little bit of quick cleanup news. Call it the cleanup aisle news.
Okay, I like that.
Cleanup aisle 6.
Clean up.
Get a mop.
Clean up on a Tuesday? I don't know.
I don't know. But we're going to just, pick up some news.
I like how you just tried to make up a segment.
Thanks, man. That's what I do. I think about my head.
Clean up.
This is the cleanup aisle, Jeremiah. And we're going to just, update you on a little bit of news here and there, some injury news and some kicker news, because that's a thing. And we'll be right back in just a moment here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. And that commercial that just happened is for our fantasy football show, in which my friend Jeremiah here will be recording today. So be sure to tune in. He got a crazy week in fantasy this weekend. We'll see what he can top for next weekend. But enough of that. We're going to talk about a kicker first, who I'm sure was on a lot of fantasy teams. And we're going to talk about a player who's not on any fantasy teams because he's an offensive lineman. But let's start with Justin Tucker of the Ravens, of course. He was watching the football game last night, as I imagine a lot of NFL players might do. They like to play football. They probably like to watch football, too. Well, the Baltimore Ravens kicker was not too happy about the no flag in the game in which we mentioned earlier the kicker of the Bills got taken out, Dan Carpenter. Well, he tweeted as well that there was no flag thrown on this one. Quote by saying, How the heck, it's a kid's show, how the heck is that not a personal foul for roughing the kicker? And now they're saying Carpenter has to leave the field? Total BS, end quote. Clearly kicker standing up for kicker there. I like to see Tucker get so flustered sometimes because the man he's a weird fella. He's kind of like a crap talker, which is weird for kickers. But he's also not a bad dude. He seems fine. He frustrates me because as a Steeler fan, that dude never misses kicks. But Jesus, man. He'll line up for a 60-yard. I'll be like, probably.
You know what? And you can probably do an onside kick, too.
We will talk about that tomorrow.
Sorry, I had to bring it up.
Don't make me show you the video. I've seen him do it he's done it. He did it when he was with Bryce.
I know. I'm just sorry. That was probably, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay. But anyways, yeah, man, kicker standing up for the kicker. Yeah, and I think Justin Tucker was basically saying what we all thought about this play. It was total BS. It's
total anarchy.
It's asinine.
It's anarchy. Just start screaming.
But yeah, it is a terrible call that was missed. That's all I can say. And like I said before, I think it's funny that all these missed calls happen at CenturyLink Field. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to go into a conspiracy theory here. I'm just going to say I think it's funny. I think it's ironic.
I know you do. And I don't disagree with you. I think, honestly, I think something's happening. I think it's ghosts or something, man.
Ooh.
I think it's ghosts.
Ooh, it's anarchy. Okay.
Moving on.
I don't think that we should discuss anarchy on Election Day. So I think we're going to move on here.
Good call.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to move on to an unfortunate injury in which I mentioned Eric Wood came out of the game last night. He's the Bills' starting center. Former first-round pick of theirs back in 2009. He made his 104th career start last night against the Seahawks there. Well, unfortunately for him, he has broken his right leg in a play that I always kind of cringe when I see these things happen. Not the breaks or anything, but the runs that go right at the back of linemen and everybody falls down, and you just hope nobody gets their leg falling on it. Well, that's kind of what happened. He was caught in that kind of scrum there and tangled up, and unfortunately it did break. He was down on the field for quite a while, as a matter of fact. And it's not the first time this has happened. It's actually the second time in his career he suffered a broken leg. He broke 2 bones in his left leg as a rookie in 2009 and missed the final 6 games of the year. So it is unfortunate. I mean, only thing I can say about Eric Wood, I know he's very good. He's a very good center.
I think he's one of the top centers in the league.
He does not look like a football player. He does not. I'll give him that. But no, yeah, he's definitely one of the top centers in the league. He's a good center. Unfortunately, they had to replace him with Ryan Groy, and I think a lot of that led to this late sacks they had in the game.
Yeah, that was huge. Mm-hmm. That was huge, especially on that last final drive for the Bills right there, trying to get that touchdown. Yeah, it was very. There's 2 things that impacted the Bills last night: that field goal before halftime and the Wood injury.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, a lot of went into the game in general, but I agree with you. Those are definitely big factors in the game. And the Bills, unfortunately, I mean, I really wish they would have came out with a win on that one. I like seeing teams that are kind of the underdogs win those. But unfortunately, yeah, he's missed the rest of the year, and that's a tough thing for an offensive lineman to break your leg like that. So hopefully he comes back stronger than ever. I'm glad you agree, Jeremiah.
I do.
Tomorrow, Anthony will be joining us, and we will be discussing the college football playoff rankings week 2. We have our wide left, our wacky wide left segment, and our for real segment.
Man, I can't wait.
I know you're excited. I, for the wacky and the wide left, will be talking, yes, that's Steelers' onside kick attempt.
And I might talk about a certain defensive lineman.
Certain birthday boy.
Certain, birthday boy. We'll just go with that.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
And we don't know yet what Anthony will talk, but I'm sure it'll be funny. But until then, we'd like to thank you for tuning in. Tune in to Jeremiah's Fantasy Football Show. That'll be happening here in the next hour or so. Or if you're listening to this 2 months or a year from now, that happened. And we're talking to you in the future. You're
exactly.
welcome.
We're talking to you in the future.
Yeah. Woo. Anarchy.
Yay.
But until tomorrow, we'd like to thank you guys for listening. As always, for Anthony, I'm Alex.
I'm Jeremiah.
And we will see you guys tomorrow. You enjoy the rest of your day. Go out there and vote.
Yes, guys.
Go out there and
vote, please.
And if you, again, listening to this years from now, I hope you voted. Until then, thanks, guys, for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.